All right, so we're gonna get started now, guys. So hello everyone to the Dusk Community Forum. My name is Fahad Rana, Dusk's official community builder and lead, and I want to thank all of you with us today for joining this session. Today, the topic we're discussing will revolve around our updated roadmap, which has been one of the most requested items by the community, and well, it's for a long time. So I'm glad we're able to converse about it with, of course, our co-founder, Emanuele, who has been our guest many times on, of course, this channel. And we have a special guest today, namely our new CMO, Berndt. And he will be talking about some of the marketing aspects of, what we're doing with the roadmap as well. So we will focus on, of course, the roadmap itself, and there will be a quick overview of what we've been working on, what is on the horizon, and how it all fits together. Some of the topics we will be discussing, to name a few, are the web wallet, VM2, incentivized testnet, and perhaps some other surprises either of our gentlemen would like to mention. So this discussion with Q&A will also cover future testnet goals that evidently lead to the eventual release of the next few phases of testnet and the finality of the release of mainnet after some time. So we invite you, our ever-loyal Dusk community, to this session for further information and updates. So today, not only are we going to have a few team members in here alongside Emanuele, Berndt, and myself, but Yannick as well, who will be recording the session for you guys for social media in case you would like to revisit the conversation or would like to share among people for those who have missed this session. And other than that, we're good to go for today. So just want to say hello to Emanuele and of course Berndt. Please guys, take it away.
Hey, thanks Fahad for the nice introduction. Emma, shall I? It's okay to do a little kickoff, or do you want to start?
Oh, please. It's gonna be my pleasure to just to host together with you today. I'm very excited for the community to finally hear from you. And please break the ice.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Emma. Yes, hi everyone. So my name is Berndt. I just started, I think 3 months ago, and I have a background in SaaS and tech. So, and of course, I heard also from Fahad that for you guys, it's also quite interesting to learn a bit more about all the activities we're gonna do, besides, of course, the roadmap. I pushed actually the link of the roadmap in the chat channel, so you're able to see the cool phases we have fleshed out, and then we can go into discussion there. But for like a small intro of myself, from Amsterdam, I worked for a lot of big tech companies, and now working with the team on a whole new setup. So we really want to be this content house, as I mentioned it, with really cool podcast series about Mecha, AMA series, for example, about the roadmap we're doing now. But also I have a little scoop on the marketing side, maybe to send over in a bit, and because we're also going to work on the branding. So that's in a nutshell a really small intro for myself. That's it. I'm 46, do a lot of sports, and happy to have this conversation with you guys about the roadmap, but also about marketing in particular.
Well, thank you, Berndt. A couple of words about myself. My name is Emanuele, and you guys all know me, so I'm gonna cut it short. All right. I think that one of the most important thing is basically to give a little bit of an introduction about how we do envision this, and so we have been just putting out this roadmap article. Of course, this describes quite in a form that is hopefully digestible for everybody. What is happening, what is coming, and how we do envision basically to develop within our program, and to reach our goal and our vision to accelerate the world transition toward regulated decentralized finance and an asset-backed token economy. This is our vision. And I believe that everybody is probably already comfortable with some of the information that we just put out, but just for the sake of clarity, I am going to speak a little bit about the 4 different phases of our Testnet program, starting from Daybreak, going through the daylight, and then moving toward Alba, and finally Aurora. I am particularly happy that we seem to have found a very good pace for our development, and no doubt these phases are going to be put out and are going to signify some progressive enhancement that most likely is going to be quite evident moving forward. One thing that I want to clarify before everything else is the fact that whereas normally people think about roadmap as a linear set of different steps that, and one comes after the others, in our case, these phases or these different phases in our roadmap essentially need to be understood as topical rather than progressive. What do I mean with that? I mean that essentially a lot of the different kind of items that are going to be delivered most likely in one phase or the other are already under development. This means that some of the items that, for example, are going to be delivered and deployed during Aurora, they are already under development. So this doesn't mean that we are going to tackle the items that are going to be part of our Alba phase only after daylight is finished and commenced. We are actually, our teams mostly work concurrently. And there are a few items that indeed are a hard dependency among the different phases, and those items definitely they do command a little bit of a linear pathway. But for the most part, all the different most of the different items in these phases are in fact already being worked on as we speak. And our development department, our engineers, they do work in small groups, normally 2-3 people, that coordinate and synchronize quite frequently, so that everybody is on the same page. But they act mostly independent from each other, according to a coherent and consistent program, which is in fact highlighted and explained through our roadmap. So the 4 different phases, Daybreak has been about, because Daybreak is largely over, has been about laying out the foundation that we have been working on for so much time. And it was about laying this ground and to have finally a public network that has been launched and has been the subject of different improvements that have been introduced at all time through the release cycle. Daylight is about decentralization. Now, during the Q&A, you can obviously ask me more questions about Daybreak, but considering that it's always best to focus on what is at hand and what is in the near future, then I'm not going to spend too much time right now about Daybreak. For what concerns Daylight is going to be about decentralization. It's going to be the moment in which Dusk Network is going to start its decentralization program, where we do envision that we are going to involve the community more and more through a program of community-run nodes. I know that a lot of you already have been waiting for quite a while to be able to run a node and to contribute to the network, this particular phase is the one in which this is going to happen. Of course, as everything that is, incremental and is incrementally taken forward, then this doesn't mean that only during this phase we are we are accepting community nodes, but throughout all the different phases we aim to achieve a complete decentralization. So Daylight is about decentralization, is about not only decentralization in running the infrastructure, but decentralization also in how the infrastructure can stimulate participation from the different users that we do have. And because of that, there are several items that are probably quite important and they deserve some mention. One of these is the web wallet, which is going to be released during this phase. Another one is the opening of the community participation, which in fact is imminent. And it was made possible through the changes in our reward program, in our reward contract, in fact, in the staking contract. And most importantly, Daylight also will launch an incentive program that finally is designed to create quite good long-term engagement. We have been thinking quite hard about incentives that do have the power to make sure that the community is properly incentivized to not only passively participate to the Testnet program, but also actively in different kind of ways. So the incentives is going to this program incentive is getting finalized as we speak. We will share it with you throughout the Daylight phase of our Testnet, and essentially is going to be about the following activities. It's about creating a deeper involvement, is about finally putting out a bug hunt program. It is about achieving a fairer distribution of Dusk tokens, something which doesn't only stimulate the accumulation through a small number of whales, but is more inclusive, which is something that we have been thinking quite hard, and something that we haven't been very good with our past incentive program to have. And most importantly, we want to stimulate the community to run nodes through the testnet and be very proactive in upgrading their software and in participating in all the different kind of activities. Another thing that is very interesting to mention is the fact that the incentive program will continue running alongside the Helios grant program, because the two are separate and they have different kind of targets and different kind of recipients. The Helios grant is more for individuals or organizations that in fact are more technical in nature. And one of the recipients of this incentive program is basically those organizations that do further the knowledge and the development of the zero knowledge sector. And after the decentralization part, after Daylight, which is a crucial and very important phase in our roadmap, we are going to transition toward Alba. Alba is the time in which we are going to put out smart contracts. So third-party smart contracts. We are going to migrate the Genesis smart contract that right now are deployed at Genesis time. We are going to make them into smart contracts that are in fact no longer hard-coded. And we are going to ignite, hopefully, an ecosystem of different applications through our confidential token standard. The confidential token standard is going to be the commencement of our confidential smart contract program. And we do aim with this to kickstart the overall DApp and application phases. It is a necessary step because it is something that we want to be very careful about, considering that all the tooling that we will publish and we will ship together with the confidential token standard will signify adoption. Which is going to be as more successful, the simpler it is to create smart contracts on top, confidential smart contracts on top of Dusk Network. And after this very important phase, then we are going to see the final part of our Testnet program, which is going to be the security token and regulated financial product tokenization natively on top of Dusk Network. Aurora is going to be the phase in which this is going to happen. Probably the crucial moment within Aurora is going to be the delivery of Zedger, which is our transaction model that is designed specifically for security tokens and to create on-chain security tokens and other kind of regulated products that in fact are completely compliant, together with expanding on the different tools already delivered during the alpha phase in order to let our partner roll out their application on top of Dusk Network. At that particular point in time, with the commencement of Aurora, is not that we are done. What will be done is basically the core infrastructure. At that particular point in time, the focus of the entirety of the organization, apart from maintenance and apart from stimulating contribution to the core protocol, also outside of the organization, but the core focus is going to be on the application phase. And that is because it is at the application layer that most of the value for any kind of protocol, any kind of organization is accrued. So Aurora is going to be crucial to get right in order for us to finally leap forward toward adoption through a wealth of different kind of applications that are going to create a constellation and an ecosystem, which is what we call a regulated decentralized finance. So these are the four different phases. In practice, there are certain milestones, certain items that probably capture the spirit of each single phase. For what concerns daylight, these are the web wallet, the community-run nodes, the latest version of the virtual machine, and incentivized testnet. For what concerns Alba, these items are going to be the confidential smart contract ecosystem, the confidential token generation in a way that resemble a little bit the ERC20 kind of standard on Ethereum. But of course, since it is Dusk, it's going to have confidentiality and a few other features that are native and proper of Dusk Network. We are going to launch confidential token applications, and we are also going to tackle Zedger. And then during Aurora, then the main items are going to be the security contract standard. And we are also going to launch the first RegDefi smart contracts together with a program of security and stress testing. It is the time in which the protocol is going to undergo through an audit and hopefully be launched. So thank you for listening to this small introduction, and I think we can move toward more question Q&A section.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for all of that, Emanuele. So, on your perspective on the updated community roadmap, it was indeed thought-provoking and insightful. So, all right, guys, we're now moving into the Q&A part of the program. And the reason being is because we want to kind of include the community as much as possible. So any of the information that you heard about the phases, while sharing the link, what you can do is you can actually drop your questions into the submit your question channel. In the meantime, I will be reading out some of the questions from the community. And of course, I have some particular ones from myself as well, being, of course, a community member from you guys too. Even though I do work for Dusk as well. Just wanted to make sure that the questions are also fair and, we're able to kind of answer them properly for you. But I will ask, starting from what we have from the community, the first one being is that does the team have plans for DuskCon 2022?
I would say that this is probably a question for Berndt, who is pretty much in charge of our communication and initiative of this kind.
Yeah, so shall I touch base on this, Emma?
Please.
Yeah, so yes, of course, we are looking into the event strategy of last year and the years before, and we are actually also thinking of doing a DuskCon. In the past, of course, it was a bit difficult with the pandemic and COVID, but situations are getting also economy a bit better to flesh out a normal event. So yes, we have the discussions now and thinking of pushing it forward. But if we know more about the situation and have more clarity, then of course the community they will be the first ones to know the date and where it will be held. So information will follow probably within a couple of weeks.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Another question from another member was, will the new roadmap get updated regularly based on team's development velocity? And if Dusk fails at a roadmap's milestone, what would be the solution afterwards? Trying to accomplish it or extending the timeline. I'm also going to extend this a bit as well, Emanuele. It's a question from me, and I know that this will be asked by the community.
One question at a time. One question at a time. I'm ready for that.
No worries. Okay, so just answer the first part of the question, and I'll add the last question from myself in pertaining to this as well. So the first question was, will the new roadmap get updated regularly based on the team's development velocity?
So the interesting thing about the roadmap is the fact that it ties pretty well with our release cycle. During our release cycle, we refine all the different kind of items and all the different kind of GitHub issues, if you will, that need to be worked on, and we collect them into to several different versions. And then at some point, when things are mature enough, then we deploy this version on the testnet. We will try to keep a relationship between the items on the roadmap and the testnet deployment, but we cannot guarantee that because in some cases, for example, if there is a bug or if there is anything else, then we might have to do patch testnet to keep it functional as much as possible. There will be a different kind of resets. You already saw one with the new kind of reward configuration during the staking contract, and but I think it is absolutely fine. So because of that, yes, we will try to strive for a balance between our release cycle and the items that are in the roadmap. And we will try basically to be as much as forward as possible with expected timelines for the delivery of these items.
Okay, thank you for that. So in terms of timelines, and this is what I was actually alluding to as well, will there be expected timelines or will there be tentative timelines? Because it's a question that keeps on coming over and over from the Dusk community.
Well, for now, essentially what we are doing is we are at the point in which we have been collecting data from our release cycles. And collecting data is something that is key for us, because in order to estimate the future without really incurring the same kind of imprecisions that have been plaguing our communication in the past, we need to present data. So that is no longer, estimations are no longer a matter of feeling, but they are a matter of an objective measure of velocity. In order to have this kind of objective measure, then we do need to incur in some more release cycle, so that we can also have a measure of productivity and use this measure in order to project timelines in the future. So have a little bit more patience about that. Hopefully, what you are going to see is that timelines communicated after we collect enough data to be able to, justify any kind of estimation based on numbers rather than a feeling. Of course, items that are in close proximity, they will probably have better estimation and more precise, because there is less uncertainty there, and things that are a little farther down the line, then they will have probably a more coarse-grained timeline estimation appointed to it. So again, we are in the phase of collecting this data, so we need a little more time, because we know how crucial it is to not betray the trust of the community with timelines, which in the past have been admittedly generating a little bit of confusion and feeling of delays and lack of progress, which wasn't really our intention.
Of course, and it's always been our intention to go ahead with the, as best as transparency we can give to the community. Hence, this question came from me as well, because it is something that is given to me by the community over and over again. But going on to the next question, if Dusk fails at its roadmap's milestone, what would be the solution afterwards? So just trying to accomplish it or extending the timeline.
Well, like I said, all the phases or all the items that belong to different phases, and they are grouped according to the topics that they fit. They are right now simultaneously in progress, and they have been for quite a while already. This means that the milestones the items that we highlighted in each single phase, they are we are quite confident about those. I mean, of course, we can always see problems. We can also always see bugs. God knows, I have seen my fair share of corner cases and situations that to be honest, I didn't really expect. But at this particular point in time, is more like having the hard dependencies in our roadmap done as soon as possible. And then everything else is probably not going to be, is probably not going to be a blocking item anymore. Of course, there can be something unexpected or not, but in terms of milestone, I am pretty confident that we can meet our, estimations. Of course, once we have those. If I may take the example and this question to highlight what are these dependencies. There are mainly two that right now are really worked on by the team, and they are on in the focus right now. One is the so-called VM2 program. This shouldn't really come as a surprise, considering that I've been talking in many different channels about it. And it is an item which is of absolute importance. And it is, in fact, one of the few hard dependencies that we have. And it is worked on right now, and I have been publishing an update today, I believe, but the current way to solve it and to ship it is essentially to experiment on actually on a simplification level, which have been ongoing, and right now finally has been showing that our problems, primarily the state bloat, for example, the gas consumption, and the complexity of the different smart contracts are in fact solved. So the VM2 is one of these dependencies. The other dependency, which is probably going to be down the line, a little more down the line, is Zedger. These are the two items that, in fact, are the only one that I can see that could cause delays or rearranging of different kind of milestones. However, I really don't expect from VM2, except if something completely unexpected happens, but I really don't expect from VM2 to see any more surprise. The one that probably is a more delicate item is Zedger, but considering that Zedger is in fact an implementation on top of the foundation that we already have, even if that proves difficult, I am pretty confident that any kind of problem can be solved quite quickly. In case it won't be possible, then in that case, we will probably reshuffle the items so to be able to have a healthy ecosystem of confidential tokens and proceed or parallelize as much as possible of the securitized and regulated product later on, so to be able at least to have a functional and useful, very useful network, even while we basically take the time to solve anything that, any kind of corner case that we couldn't really foresee for what concerns Zedger. Everything else is probably not going to be a blocker.
All right, that's perfectly fine. And in that regards, we'll be able to communicate any kind of issues or delays with the community as well, especially since I'm here and speaking from the team's behalf as well. So Emanuele, I'm just going to put you on a bit of a break for now. I'm going to ask Berndt a few questions. There's one by the community. So Berndt, what do you consider the biggest marketing challenges for Dusk, and how do you intend to tackle them? Can you share some of your goals with regards to Dusk marketing?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question. So first of all, it's also with this discussion about the roadmap. It is about simplicity, right? And also about that there are audiences, and these are the developers, investors, the traditional businesses, and the token holders really understand what we're doing also in the roadmap. So this means we have to be very clear and simple in our way of communications. And when we talk about vision, mission, ambition, and communications, we are talking about messaging. So one of our key challenges is to work on a whole new activity, and that's that's the branding part. So the last months we had talks with different branding agencies, and we are really going to make Dusk on the visual, but also on the messaging and positioning, really outstanding Outstanding. So we have this little scoop here. Yesterday we signed a contract with a company. Is one of the biggest design companies on the globe, also in Europe, and it's based in Amsterdam as well. It's called Dunbar. Dunbar is part of Dept, and they're going to help us out with all our brand activities. So this means visualizing our vision, our mission, and our ambition as well. And I'm really thrilled to work with them on all these parts, on our identity. We're also going to work on the UI and UX part of the website to make it more convenient for our audiences, and also that our journeys are much more easier to understand. And also one of the goals I'll have with the marketing department, now consisting of around eight people, who are content driven. We are really focusing more on the lead generation part. So how can we really help the customer find their goals? And that's for me like the key activities and strategies we are working on with the team. And it's a really exciting phase, especially working with all the development guys and the new marketing team and me as well. I'm really thrilled to push fast forward and have the best positioning and messaging out there. And so you will hear a lot more from marketing in the future and upcoming months.
No worries. Actually, I was going to add to that question, and that would have been, is there any kind of tentative expected timeline for when this branding would be starting with this company?
Yes, definitely. So we're going to start next week already with the branding agency, and we're going into a couple of phases, but we'll hopefully, and that's what we expect, and also talk through, it will be around 3-4 months time that we can have this new look and feel, tone of voice, and branding for our company, Dusk Network. So think about 4 months as a maximum from now on.
Okay, all right, perfect. So I'm just gonna get back to Emanuele. Thank you so much for that, Berndt. So there's a question from our community member. This is a longer term question, but what are the team's current thoughts regarding bridging to other blockchains? Will Dusk have a light client that will allow for fully trustless bridging?
Well, fully trustless bridging doesn't exist. So no, we are not going to add that.
Okay.
What we can go for is basically trust minimized bridges. However, bridging to other different other protocol is something that definitely is something that we are thinking, something that there is quite some talk about, especially internally. And we do have several different partnerships that are, pushing us for bridging, because they are attracted by the capabilities of, providing confidentiality or providing an on-ramp on different kind of assets that are unique to Dusk Network. So it is definitely something that is in our in our thoughts. However, we need to prioritize. We need to ship. We need to deliver consistently. We need to put our wallet, put our securities, and any kind of application that pertain to regulated finance in front of our user as soon as possible. And of course, before going for a global approach, then you need to go for a local approach. So I am of the idea that we first need to dominate a niche, and after dominating the niche and securing it, then we move to something else. So this is the something else kind of part, I have to say. So while we don't forget about it, we took a conscious decision to accelerate on our own program. And if we are successful with that, then at that particular point in time, we will see an influx of many different requests for bridges and interoperation with other blockchain. But until that happens, until we are done with our own program and with our own vision, then our focus is somewhere else.
Okay, all right. So guys, I understand this was a two-part question, but there's a few more questions in there, and I'm going to move on to more questions from the community. So the next one is from Emrater. So this question is, there were plans for starting nodes on DigitalOcean in an easy fashion. What's cooking with this and when? Will ITN earn node runners real Dust tokens, and how much will the node runners be rewarded?
This is part of our IDN program, the new incentives that we are going to publish quite soon. Definitely, there is going to be a reward for running a node, and the reward is obviously going to be in Dusk tokens, not Testnet Dusk, but Dusk tokens. How this is happening, we are quite far with the program, but I am going to basically let Berndt communicate it properly once it has been finalized. For what concerns DigitalOcean, then this is where I think most of our infrastructure at this particular point in time is deployed. However, we already are using I think Amazon Lambdas and serverless instances in order to create proofs for our CLI wallet and for our upcoming web wallets. So I can think that we are also going to expand on different kind of VPS providers, because also we want to have a very high level of decentralization. Stay tuned for that.
All right, great. This next question is from Robert, and he's asking, there are plans for making some of the tech stack accessible in scripting languages for greater simplicity with Python bindings or a JavaScript library, given there is a web wallet. So he's basically asking, are there any plans for this?
That is an interesting question. So if I could express a desire and have this desire, just coming to life, into reality, then I would say definitely yes. However, everything in life is a trade-off. Because of what we are really interested in right now is to eliminate complexity from how we can create confidential smart contracts. Now, in order to eliminate complexity, then unfortunately we need to go into a little more specificity in our tooling. Abstracting away our smart contracts, and when I'm talking about abstracting away, I am particularly talking about abstracting away from Rust. Example, by introducing Python bindings or any kind of different other languages that would compile directly to a WebAssembly flavor that is compatible with Rust. This is something that in the future is probably going to be possible, but at this particular point in time is not. And the reason for this is that basically we opted for the simplicity kind of trade-off rather than the completeness side of the coin. What I can guarantee, what I can with a reasonable degree of confidence talk about is abstracting away from Rust to a domain-specific language, which is going to feel quite easy to use. The DevTools part and this particular topic is what the Alba phase is all about. And for sure, we are also going to listen to our users for any kind of improvement and any kind of desire that they have in order to simplify the access and to stimulate adoption. However, at this particular point in time, I don't think that it is reasonable to, foresee different kind of languages that don't naturally compile to WebAssembly to be part of this kind of toolkits, because it would become very complex to have the zero knowledge circuits and the confidential part and interact with microcalendar, interact with all the different kind of storage and data structures that we developed, and do that in different kind of languages. It would really be very complex for us.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. So I have two phase questions, and this one actually came from when you were speaking about the monologue. So this one is from Smith, and he's asking that you mentioned there are some hard dependencies that cannot be done in parallel. What are those?
Like I said, from the top of my head, they are the VM2 and Zedger. So this doesn't mean that we cannot parallelize. It means that the VM2 and Zedger, they are dependencies for things that are happening afterwards. For example, what we call VM2 is something that we need to sort out in order to have a layout and a structure for our smart contracts and to progress toward the development of the standards, right? When I'm talking about standard, I'm talking about a token standard, like ERC20 on Ethereum, in our case, XC or XSC, but there are also other standards that we're thinking about. These standards are effectively akin to what you would call an interface in certain programming language. In order to have this interface completely laid out and to have a layout for the smart contracts that, in its final form, then we do need to finish our VM2, because that is going to dictate how this layout is going to be. So we cannot, for example, migrate our Genesis contract, like the transfer contract, the staking contract, the fee, or any kind of Genesis contract that we have. We cannot translate it into WebAssembly smart contract. At the moment, they are coded within the virtual machine and included in the Genesis block. But we cannot do that without having the VM done. And the reason is that the new VM is not compatible with the old one. It's not compatible with, for example, the serialization protocol and the storage solution that we have been using in the current VM, which is based on Canonical and on a specific version of microcalendar. So again, the VM is one of these hard dependency. The other one is Zedger, but Zedger is less problematic because basically it will only affect a part of our application layer and a part of our security tokenization. In particular, it allows for an explicit acceptance of transaction, something that is impossible to do on any other blockchain, and one of these requirements that need to be fulfilled in order to implement securities on a blockchain. To give you a very stupid example, if I am sending Ethereum or any kind of Ethereum token to some other wallet, the recipient cannot opt out from getting these tokens. And this is a huge no-no for securities, of course. So Zedger Zedger is a dependency for this kind of feature, which is the explicit acceptance of the transaction. There are others, but they all pertain to the security. So Zedger is way less problematic and way less key than VM2.
Thank you. That's great. So I'm going to ask a question from Berndt. So I'm gonna put you on hold for just one more question afterwards, and we can wrap up the session. So Berndt, I wanted to ask, what is the internal marketing team of Dusk doing outside, of course, the branding team itself as well? What can we expect from the marketing team itself? So Manuel, this is a two-part question from.
I can also take that part. Huh?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm quite up to speed on what the marketing team is basically busy with.
Of course.
Basically the team has been doing an excellent job. So there are a couple of clarifications that I want to introduce to speak about. First, when we are talking about branding, we are not talking about slogans or these kind of passive things. We are talking about something that is very important for us to get right, because a branding or a consistent design that will in fact tap into a language is going to drive all the different applications that we have, and also to influence quite heavily all the toolkit and the user experience. And this is of enormous importance because we are when we deal with crypto applications, then there is a certain degree of awkwardness. For example, when dealing with a private key, dealing with a wallet, these kind of things, and getting a usable user experience or a good user experience is absolutely the key, not only for adoption, but also for the for all the different parties that right now are used to traditional finance. They are used to the convenience of using a broker that makes practically everything 10 times easier to do, simply because you tell the broker to do something and then the broker does whatever kind of complex operation behind the curtains, and you don't have that perception. That's basically what a good UX is about. We want to achieve the same, or rather something close to that, and in order to without the broker, which is extremely challenging. And the way for us to do so is to employ a language that cannot prescind from very very difficult decision making and research, which is incredibly important. This is the reason why we have been talking about the branding. When we are talking about the branding, we are talking about a very alive thing, so to speak, and a part of which is going to drive our development, and hopefully is going to make the entirety of the application ecosystem that is going to be deployed on Dusk Network usable. I am really insisting on this point, because nobody cares if you have 1,000 transactions per second as a throughput, if if it is incredibly cumbersome to use any of the tools that are deployed on your protocol. You need performance, a reasonable and acceptable performance, but you also want almost a frictionless user interface and user experience. And the branding is a key part of that. We recognize that, and I wanted to thank Berndt for taking the time to highlight this very strategic decision and to select the right parties for us, a very professional one with a lot of experience in this sector, to help us out in rolling out this kind of strategic item.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for stepping in for that. Unfortunately, there was some kind of unfortunate incident here right now in terms of the server mute. So it's been worked out, and Berndt is able to answer. So apologies for that, Berndt. So I have one last question before we wrap up this session. So it is a two-parter again, but it's from two different members. So are VM2 web wallet and community nodes close? All the daylight items, and would Alba and Aurora still be testnet phases?
Yes, so these phases essentially they encompass different kind of topics, and all these topics are going to be satisfied and fulfilled during our testnet program. So testnet consists of these 4 different phases, and for what concerns the items that we've been talking about, the web wallet, the TM2, and the community nodes, so they are items within Daylight, which is what we are focused and what has got the highest priority for us at this particular point in time. So depending on your definition of close, we are working on these with the highest priority at the moment, and therefore they are going to be the next items that are going to be rolled out for us.
Perfect. Thank you so much for, of course, today's discussion and a Q&A session today. Emanuele and Berndt, I want to thank you so much, of course, along with our team members who are here as well, and especially to you community members here today that were able to join the live session. So I appreciate all of you for giving us your time and feedback for the topic today. And we will hopefully see you in the next 3 weeks for the next one. So for now, take care and have a good morning or evening, wherever you are tuned in from. Thank you guys. Take care of yourself. I appreciate all of this today. Thank you guys.